How's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. Hope you're having a good day, and welcome to another Pokemon Go video. Okay, so this is a topic I actually covered a few years ago on my channel. However, I noticed a couple of people are still making this one huge mistake. In this video, I'll be talking about why you should never purify Shadow Mewtwo, as it is by far one of the best Shadow Pokemon in the game by a wide margin. I also think this upcoming Team Go Rocket Takeover event is going to be one of the most important ones we will have in a while. I'm going to be talking about all of this in today's video, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. One of the most surefire ways to get roasted by the Pokemon Go community is to purify a Shadow Pokemon that you shouldn't. The most notable example of this is without a doubt Shadow Mewtwo. When it comes to the benefits of using Shadow Pokemon over regular and purified Pokemon, Shadow Mewtwo encompasses all of it and then some. It is, by a wide margin, one of the best generalists in the game. Even if you don't have stellar IVs, Shadow Mewtwo will still outperform a plethora of different Pokemon, even if you're using it for neutral damage. If we look at the list of the best raid attackers on PokeBattler.com, you can see that Shadow Mewtwo is at the very top of the list. Shadow Mewtwo with Confusion and Psystrike is at rank 1, and rank 2 is also Shadow Mewtwo, only with Psycho Cut and Psystrike. It beats out some of the highest DPS Pokemon in the game, including Mega Evolutions like Mega Gengar and Mega Charizard Y, which are two Megas that are infamous for having some of the highest DPS in the game. It is also substantially higher than all Shadow, Legendary, and Mythical Pokemon that are currently released. Keeping this Pokemon as a Shadow is crucial for you to gain any ground in Pokemon Go's endgame. Now, if we go further down in the list, you will start to see Purified Mewtwo at rank 31. This is lower than most Mega Evolutions and other Shadow Pokemon. It's quite astounding just how much this Pokemon drops off once it loses that Shadow damage bonus. So, it goes without question that you should never purify Shadow Mewtwo. It is by far one of the best Pokemon in the game, and you are reducing its power an incredible amount by purifying it. Even if your Shadow Mewtwo has abysmally low IVs, it will still outperform even a 100% IV purified Mewtwo. My point here is that purifying a Shadow Mewtwo is probably the biggest mistake you can make. Yes, I totally understand how tempting it is to increase the IVs of a Pokemon with a terrible appraisal, but it really isn't worth it at all, considering just how much of a drastic decline it ends up being once it is purified. Now let's say you use your Super Rocket Radar next week to pick up this Shadow, and you end up with one with really bad IVs. So what should you do then? Well, I admit I've never had to deal with this dilemma. Since my best Shadow Mewtwo actually has incredible IVs, I still think what you should do is invest your resources into powering it up. Maxing out any Shadow Pokemon is always going to be incredibly expensive, and that is because Shadow Pokemon cost significantly more resources in order to power up and to unlock its second charge attack. However, if there is any single Shadow Pokemon that is absolutely worth the grind, it is Shadow Mewtwo. For myself, it took almost an entire year of grinding in order to get the Candy, XL Candy, and Stardust that I needed to get my best Shadow Mewtwo fully maxed out with 2 charge attacks. But I have to say, it has made the game so easy for me in a plethora of different areas. Sure, I could have saved a lot of Rare Candy and Stardust if I had purified it first, but I was fully aware of just how bad that would have been. My best Shadow Mewtwo currently has 14 attack, 15 health, and 15 defense IVs. Purifying it would have made it a solid hundo. However, even though it is a perfect IV Mewtwo, it would still be leagues behind even my worst Shadow Mewtwo that has trash IVs. What makes me discouraged, however, is the amount of times I see on social media and even from my own friends list just how many players have Mewtwo's with the purified aura. I don't know if it's because of ignorance or trolling or maybe a small combination of both, but I've been seeing so many players continue to make the mistake of purifying this one Pokemon. Like I said repeatedly throughout this video, you should never do this. So what is the reason for me to make this video? Why should anyone care whether or not they purified this Pokemon? Well, in case you didn't know, Shadow Mewtwo is set to make its long-awaited return to Pokemon Go next week during the Team Go Rocket Takeover event. If for whatever reason you still don't have this Shadow Pokemon, then this will be your opportunity to pick one of them up. This is extremely important, especially for anyone who didn't get Shadow Mewtwo the first couple times it was out, because it could be several months or even years until we see this Pokemon back in the game. So yeah, the first mistake would be forgetting to use your Super Rocket Radar during this time. The second mistake would be to purify Shadow Mewtwo. But the third mistake that players could potentially make is forgetting to use your charge TMs to remove frustration on Shadow Mewtwo. Going back to that ranking list from Pokebattler.com, you can see that the charge attack that pushes Mewtwo is of course Psystrike. The problem here is that this attack is a legacy move. Thus, if you want Shadow Mewtwo to reach its fullest potential, you will likely have to use an elite charge TM in order to give it Psystrike. But of course, you will want to remove frustration first. I suggest during the Team Go Rocket Takeover event, you use your Super Rocket Radar to battle Giovanni when it is windy weather. Catch a weather boosted Shadow Mewtwo, and use an elite charge TM in order to change frustration into Psystrike. Fortunately, there is an opportunity to get an elite charge TM over the weekend, and that is through the Community Day box. It might be worth using the Poke Coins for this particular item, because it will definitely come in handy almost immediately because of Shadow Mewtwo. So yeah, in conclusion, don't ever purify this one Shadow Pokemon. Make sure you utilize the bonus during the Team Go Rocket Takeover event to remove frustration on it, then dedicate whatever resources you got to maxing it out as soon as possible. Rare candies, Rare Candy XL, Elite Charge TMs, and of course, Stardust. This one Pokemon is definitely worth all of it. Again, even if you get one with terrible IVs, it is still going to be much better than a purified perfect IV. Thus, regardless of how it ends up, it is still worth spending all of those resources on it. I promise you, as someone who has completely maxed out Shadow Mewtwo, you will not regret it. Any raid boss that is weak against Psychic types will get destroyed by it, and it could also round out a Master League team if you are lacking in that. It can also clear out gyms by itself, and you will definitely be the envy of many players. Also, if you made the mistake of purifying Shadow Mewtwo in the past, fortunately, you now have an opportunity to redeem yourself. So make sure you battle Giovanni once the Team Go Rocket Takeover event starts next week, and collect yourself another one of these super powerful Pokemon. This time, don't purify it. And yeah, with that said, that's going to be it for this video. Now, I would love to know your thoughts regarding Shadow Mewtwo down below. Do you have yourself one of them? How useful has it been? Also, did you make the mistake of purifying it? Let me know in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And if you ended up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then be sure to check out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way, like with remote raids, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. But yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Count Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.